So I'm back. Let's see if I've been able to flip my camera. Might see if this is showing backwards again. No, all right, so good. We're right side. We're right side. So I just wanted to do something simple, like you could do this with, say a name or a word, and I just figured I would do something like home sweet home. Just something very simple. So I'm just gonna go ahead and letter this in with pencil so that I can make changes if need be. This may not be perfect because I'm not using a ruler and I'm just eyeballing everything. I don't know if you can see the pencil line or not, but I will upload a template for you when I'm finished so that you can attempt this yourself. So I'm just going to come over here and draw 3 little circles where I would want maybe just to have some little flowers. And then I would draw in some leaves. How's everybody doing? Let me know. I'm so sorry for the delay in the week, but if you know me, you know I'm going to give you as much time as needed. So, you know, if our 6-week course turns into a 10-week course, that's just because I want to give you all the knowledge that I can. So yeah, if you can kind of see that, but I will upload a template like this for you to be able to print off and use if you don't feel comfortable just drawing it out yourself. But it's just some simple circles, some simple like diamond shapes, elongated diamond shapes. And I'm going to keep my colors relatively simple. I'll let you know what colors I'm going to use. This is one of my favorite greens. It's a Hauser light green. These are Deco Art Americana. Feel free to use whatever paints that you may already have on hand. So I'm going to use that, and then I want to use a deeper green. So I'm going to go ahead and grab this Evergreen, also by Americana. Then I'm also going to grab a nice bright little green. This is Citron Green. Put that there. And then I like to use just a flat brush. This is a flat 1/2 inch. Yep, a flat 1/2 inch brush. Then of course I like to use my thin liners or thin rounds to add in detail. So I'm going to work with pretty much these 2 brushes. And my palette's just got some old dried paint. So I'm just going to go ahead and plop out some paint there. The Citron, the light Hauser, and Evergreen. There are different ways to paint as far as technique. There are, as long as you blend your colors, there's just different ways to blend the colors. So what I'm going to do here is show you maybe 1 or 2 ways that you can blend these colors together when you're painting. And the first one is going to be what's called a double load. So I'm going to take that 1/2 inch brush, and size really doesn't matter. There's 1/4 inches, there's 1 inch. It just depends on the width of the brush. So I'm going to take this brush here and I'm going to dip half of that. I'm going to take the flat part and then I'm going to rotate it. I'm going to dip half of that brush into my lighter color, as you can see here. The other half I'm going to dip into a darker color, like you can see right here. And then between the two colors, I'm just going to work the brush back and forth a little bit on my palette. When my paintbrush gets a little too dry with paint, I just dip my corners back in those two colors, puddles of paint. So then I'll start up here with this really big leaf. Let me see if I can zoom in a bit for you. I think that's good. Okay. Then I take the brush, this flat part, and I just kind of stick it so the tip is at the tip of that leaf. And I set that flat down on there, pull the brush down and follow the line. See, my brush is a little bit dry here, so you can see here where the paint is not really flowing. So I'm going to dip it back in and really load up on that green paint. I'm just going to pull the brush, following the dark green edge will follow the outer part of that leaf, and I'll flip it here just to get that part filled in. It's almost like you know, just following that outer edge of the leaf that I drew. I'm gonna just really load up pretty good here on paint. Then I'm gonna flip it over again because I want my green, the dark green, to be on the outer part of my brush. I'm gonna set it down there flat, kind of lean it back to me, and I'm just gonna pull it and follow the outline of that leaf again and end here. You can just come in with your brush and play around a bit. So this is, if you're familiar with Donna Dewberry, this is kind of like a one-stroke technique of using one brush, two colors double loaded on the brush to create the look of like a shaded leaf, and then you just come in here and play with it a bit. So it gives you that shaded leaf look fairly quickly. I'm going to rinse my brush out real quick, guys. So I want to show you another way. For this one now, I'm just going to take that brush and I'm going to come over here because I don't want all my leaves to be the exact same color. I'm going to come in here into the citron green, and just in regular painting technique, I'm just going to, like coloring, I'm just going to fill in the leaf with all one color, that citron green. So I'm just filling it in almost like coloring in with markers or crayons. I'm just filling in the whole leaf with one color. I'm going to set this brush to the side, and I'm going to grab my liner at this point. I'm going to wet it, and I'm going to just come over here into this, the dark green, the evergreen. I'm going to load up my brush with the evergreen. Then you can come to the, say, the base of the leaf. This paint on the bottom is still wet. That's important. You want the paint to still be wet. You're going to do a wet on wet technique. So when you start bringing this in, I hope that you can see here where those colors are starting to blend together because they're both wet. Excuse me for that. This is a bit of a real color change using such a light color. Then I can come back in and grab, I'm not cleaning the brush, I'm going back into that citron, and I'm going to just keep bringing that on here, and I'm going to just play with it. You can see how the colors are starting to blend. together, the wet on wet. You can just come in here and just keep playing around. Because I chose a very light color and a very dark color, that contrast between the two is very strong. You can just keep coming in with the lighter color and working it down in. You can keep bringing that darker color up through. Say you want to bring like a line up through the leaf. And that is the other way of shading, say, a leaf or a flower without that double load. I'm going to come over here. I like that look of the lighter leaf next to the darker ones. So I'm just going to fill this in, just playing with the light color. And while that's wet, I'm going to set that brush to the side, come in here again. I'm not going to use as much of the evergreen because it's such a deep, strong color. But I'm just going to start here at the base again. I'm going to make that V of the leaf. And then I'm just going to keep pulling that up through, feathering, like I'm pushing down on the brush, then I'm lifting up. Almost like when we are lettering with the brush. I'm pushing and I'm lifting up and I'm letting those colors just blend together. You can add darker, you can make it lighter, and I'm going to come up through the middle just a little bit to create a vein on the leaf. So I'm going to switch back over now because this might be the easiest way, is to just keep playing with the lighter and the darker colors. But I'm going to switch back over. I'm going to put this here so you have a view of what I'm doing. I have the citron green in here, but I'm just going to leave it. I'm going to dip half into that dark green again, half into the medium green, and I'm going to work them together on my palette. Oh, my hand's in the way. I'm going to work it together on the palette. Then I'm just going to come in here again with, I like my darker to the outer edge, and I'm just going to use that same brush that has the two colors already on it. I'm just going to use that to create shading with just one stroke of the brush with two colors, depending on the look that you like best or whatever you find easier to do with your brush. As you can see, both ways leave you with a nice pretty shaded leaf. I'm going to come over here. I'm going to do this one, a nice dark leaf, dark to the outside. Oh, can you see that? I'm horrible with staying in frame. I apologize. So dark I like to keep to the outside. You can certainly flip it if you like the lighter look of the leaf to the outside. And then I'm just using that brush to shade, to give that leaf dimension on its own. So I'll do one more of the leaf, the bigger leaves in this fashion. I'm going to set the brush down where the darker is to the outside, and I'm just going to, in one stroke, I'm going to fill that leaf in. I'm going to end on the edge of the brush again. Then I'm going to come across the other side. I'm pushing down, lifting up. I'm using that end of the brush. When I lift up, I get a nice chiseled edge. So that will give me a different sort of feel for that leaf. If you have any questions, guys, please throw them in there. I'm going to switch back over, and say this brush is too big. Grab one of your smaller rounds or even a smaller flat. I think I'll do that. I'm going to come into that citron green again, and I'm going to just paint in these smaller leaves with the citron green. I'm going to do another one here. And I can work pretty fast, so I'm going to go ahead and do the 2 at a time. If you need to just do 1 at a time to ensure that you're doing a wet on wet, then do whatever you feel more comfortable with. So this, I have the evergreen again on this part of the brush, and I'm just doing a V at my leaf, and then I'm going to just use that brush and feather that green up through the leaf and blending it to your liking. The more you go over it, the more blended it will be. It's a little bit dark, so I can let that dry a little bit and move over to this one. I'm going to do my V, and then I'm just going to pull that color up through the leaf. And you could leave it like that if that is the look that you like, but the more that you keep playing with those colors, wet on wet, it will blend together. And not every leaf has to be the same. So I'm going to come back over here a little bit and just see if I can add some more of the lighter green. And the more I just keep going back over with my brush, I get a different look. This leaf was pretty dark, so I'm just going to put a line down the middle with the lighter green. Maybe this one I'll just come over and clean up the edges a bit. He's still wet in certain spots. But you just keep playing with it until you get the look of the leaf that you want. I'm going to put a little line down the middle there. So those are leaves. I can throw in a small one here. Why don't we throw in a little small one here, guys? I'm just going to use my liner brush. I'm just going to add a leaf here with just the tiniest little bit of green at the base and up the sides, and I'll come through the middle and blend it through. Pretty simple, simple, simple. I want to show you another technique. Oh, Peggy, thank you. I want you to be amazing. So if you have any questions, please, please, please let me know. I'm going to grab my typical go-to pink. I have some baby pink here, and I also have an apple barrel color that I really like. This cameo pink. It's real soft and sweet. I think I'm going to use that. And then also mix in a little bit of this melon color. So again, the cameo pink is apple barrel. I know you can get this for like 50 cents, I believe, at Walmart. Americana is a little bit more expensive, but I like these two colors. So I'm going to flip this over, and I'm going to make a puddle of my cameo pink. Just a little bit, a little puddle of the melon next to it. And those two colors, it won't give us a real drastic color change, but it'll look really, really pretty. Hi, Fran. So I'm just wetting this brush. This was the smaller flat that I picked up, the 1/4 inch. I think I'm going to switch over to that. I can use this one. Maybe. So some good brushes to have on hand would be your 1/4 inch flat, maybe a 1/2 inch flat, and some different size rounds or liners. These are my main go-tos. If I'm painting really big, I'll go up to a full 1 inch flat, or even, you know, like a 2 inch flat, but I don't use them as often, so I stock up on the smallers. I'm going to go ahead, I'm just going to go ahead and use the 1/2 inch flat, and I'm just going to fill this whole thing up with the melon, and I'm just going to go in like we did with the leaves, and as if we were coloring in a coloring book, and I'm just going to fill in this flower. And it doesn't matter if your circles are perfect. when you look at roses or flowers, there's nothing perfect about them. So I'm just gonna fill in these circles. There's nothing fancy about this, guys. You can see here your little bubbles that you make, and by not keeping them perfectly round, it just lends to the look of a flower. It doesn't have to be perfect. So all these are still wet. I'm going to keep them fairly wet. They're not glopped on with paint, but it's wet, and we're going to keep on playing around with this wet on wet technique. Now I'm going to take this same brush and I'm going to dip that one side into the cameo pink like we did with the leaves, and I'm just going to pull that a little bit on my palette. I'm going to double load it so I have half of the melon, maybe half, half and half looks good. The melon's not quite as important because the bottom of the flower is already colored in the melon. So let me see if I can do this without putting my big old hand. Guten Morgen. What is that? Is that Dutch? What is that, Fran? So I'm going to take that lighter color, just like we did with the leaves. I used the darker color to the outside of the leaves. For the flower, I'm going to use the lighter color to the outside. And I'm just going to come around and almost make like little shell shapes or little rainbow shapes. And I'm just going to go ahead and go around those flowers. And I hope that you can see. German, that's what I thought. All right, German. So this one here, it's going to overlap. Oh, I went the wrong way, but that's all right. White, the lighter to the outside, and I'm just going to go around in little like rainbow strokes and let these colors just blend together. It almost looks like petals. This one here is a little tricky because I want that flower to look like it's underneath of that one. So I'm just going to continue with my little shell strokes or little rainbow strokes with the white to the outside. And then I'm going to leave that the way that is. I'm going to get rid of that brush and put it in the water. Then I'm going to come over and pick up one of my rounds. Size, not really important. Whatever you feel is going to look good for you. Let me switch over here real quick and see if I can find a piece of scrap paper. Of course, there won't be one. I'm just going to use the edge of this. And this does have something on it, but I'm not worried about it. I'm going to move this out of the way just for a second and just focus right here on this piece of paper. I want to show you using this round brush. And you know how to make a comma. If you make a comma with a pencil, it's kind of like, there's a circle and then there's like a point. So we can do that with this brush. We can make the circle with the brush and we can pull down, and it's all in the pressure of the brush. Push and lift. We can do that just by pushing the brush, lifting and pulling back towards ourselves. Push and lift, push and lift. It doesn't have to be perfect. So practice this a little bit. Get rid of that. And I'm going to come back over here. I'm going to go into my cameo pink, and I'm going to come in here. I'm going to push that brush down. I'm going to pull it around, and as I'm pulling it, I'm lifting it up. This doesn't have to be perfect. I'm going to come in here, push. I'm going to pull and lift. I'm going to switch the direction that I go. Push, pull, and lift. Because I'm just creating the illusion of lighter petals. Then I'll get in here to the middle. Maybe I'll push, pull, lift, and swirl it around. You can see that. Now if you don't feel comfortable with the push-pull lift thing, just come in here, push down on the brush, bring it around like you're just gonna do a circle, and then lift it up. Come the other way, push it, pull it, lift up to the tip of your brush, and let that keep swirling around. Because the paint underneath is still wet, it's going to blend a bit, and you can just keep adding these around the flower. You'll see it gives you that look, the illusion of petals. So I'll start in the middle. I'll use the tip of the brush, and I'll just do a round like we're doing those like swirly cues. And then as I come out, maybe I'll push down on the brush and then just pull it up. So it's push, pull, lift, or just very lightly pull and then push down. I like the push, pull, lift, almost like I'm making a comma. Push, pull, and lift. You can see how this is giving you that illusion of a flower. And this would be pretty. This is pretty with this, like the home sweet home sign. Imagine doing this for a little girl and putting her name here, doing this on wood and making a sign for someone. I'm gonna come over here with, I really love this color, so I'm just gonna come over here and be careful that I don't put my hand in it. I'm just gonna come over here with the brush, and I'm just gonna fill in my letters. I love these colors, and I can dip into the dark, kind of let them blend a little bit and shade. Doesn't all have to be perfectly the same. Bring in some of the lighter pink. Go ahead and play and let those colors blend. Get my E, pick up some darker color. Just let them play together on the canvas or the piece of wood, just like you did with the flower. I've got the two colors on the brush there. You can see how that just totally blended while I did that stroke. And looks really, really cute. Just using that round, pulling it around. I ran out of paint there, so I'll just come back in. Picture looks really blurry to me today, guys, so I hope that you're able to get good bit here of what I'm doing. So there you go. That's all I did for that. I'm going to switch back over to that liner brush I like. This is the #1 liner. This is the Simply Simmons brush. You can get these at, I know you can get them at Michael's. Not sure if you can find them on Amazon or not. I can take a peek when I get off. I should have did this before I did that, because I know I'm going to put my hand in the paint. But this is what I like about lettering with paint. I can move it around. I'm going to use good old black. And I'm just using my Americana. So I'm going to dip my brush in there. I don't want a big old plop of paint on it, if you can see that. So I dip my brush in, I get it nice and full with paint. Then when I pull it out of the puddle, I kind of go up the side and twist it to try to come back to that point of the brush. Now when I come here, I know where my up and downs are, so I can go up thin with my paintbrush. But I get to about there and I worry about putting my hand in it. So I'm going to lift up, and I'm just going to come up here and join them together. You know the rules, and this is the part where I say you can break them. I know I'm going down with my brush, but I know that's technically a thick a thin upstroke. Now I know this will be a thicker downstroke, so I can pull that down, and I'm pushing down on the brush to create that thin, or that thick down stroke of this letter. And I get to the bottom. Sometimes I like to just come through and fix that if I don't like the way it ended. So I know this would be a thin up, but it's easier for me to just work from the top down and leave it thin. Come back here again. This is thick. I can do thick. Coming around, and I'll lift up. It is easier to pull towards yourself with the brush. So as long as you know where the thick and thin lines go. You can just join them up and make them look pretty there. So this is a thick down, so I'll push down, lift up with my brush, and just join them. You can see here, pulling towards yourself when you're painting, no matter what hand you are, is sometimes easier than pulling up with the brush. So as long as you know where the thicks and the thin lines are going to go, you can go ahead and break those rules. Once you really get comfortable with the brush, you can do the lettering all in one stroke. But as I said, guys, it is sometimes easier just to keep doing it this way. And I am sorry, my big old hand just keeps blocking the screen. I'm going to flip this over. I want to go ahead and get this finished. And I'm going to do this upside down because I don't want to put my hand in the wet paint. So same, I'm putting my brush in the black. I'm kind of twisting and pulling it up the side of my palette because I want to get back to the nice tip point. So I know this would be a thin upstroke, but I'm pulling back towards myself. I'm running out of paint. Paper will do that a lot faster than wood or an actual canvas. So where I would have a thick downstroke, even though I'm painting upside down, I know where to put that. And it's just that same, I'm pushing to make it a thick stroke, and I'm lifting back to the tip for the thin strokes. So thin, up, thick, down, and I'm pushing to make that down, thick stroke. But I ran out of paint there. So kind of messed that up a little. I know that that is where my O is meeting up. I know that this will be a thin, I can't really see my pencil line, is why I keep hesitating. I know that that's a thicker stroke there. Fix that. So let me know, guys, is this something that you feel comfortable trying to do? Are you understanding with the paint techniques? Because we can go over them again and again and again. I want to make sure that you have some techniques under your belt in both paint and with markers so that you can actually make art with your lettering. Because that is what I do. See, these are my thicker strokes, so I'm just going to go ahead and fill them in. Then I'll join together where the thinner strokes would be. This will be a thin stroke. And I know this is upside down and it may seem very strange. But once you learn those rules, it's easy for you to come in here and break them. So that's basically Nice little way of making, say, like a home sweet home sign, or just a little floral. Here's something cute I like to come in sometimes and do. We have these leaves here. These were the one-stroke leaves. And just to add a little bit of interest, maybe I'll just come in here, and you know that swirl. I'm going to start at the, make sure we're in the frame. I'm going to start here on the tip of my brush. I'm going to stay on the tip of the brush. I'm just going to come in here and do like a little curly cue on the leaf. I just think it looks cute. Little ways to dress up your paint. Start on the tip, pull it back, and just maybe do a little curly cue there. Something to dress up your painting. And just another one here. Maybe I'll get a little bit bigger and just do like a little swirl. You can really go all the way in with the swirl. You don't have to do this part. It's just a little something extra. Then, you know, you don't have to use black. I like to come in here and maybe do 3 little dots. I like to do my rule of odds, my rules of 3. So like 3 to 5 little dots in the center of each flower. We'll finish them off. Sharon, I'm telling you, once you do this enough, once you practice your lettering enough, you know how to make your H. You know you're going up. So then when you're playing around with the paint, you can move it wherever you need to. So that's that. I mean, if we really want to dress up this sweet part, maybe we can come in here and we can do shadowing behind like one side of your letter. Maybe, all right, here's something else. I think I've shown you this. Maybe with paint or with markers, and I'm sorry I keep flipping everything around. My brain goes faster than I can think. Maybe we'll just come back in here and we'll thicken up certain parts of this printed letter. Just make my down parts of the letter a little bit thicker. Just a little. It doesn't have to be perfect. So I'll pick just one part of this W to make a bit thicker. I'll thicken up my down strokes of my E. Both E's. I'll just make them thicker. And I'll thicken up my T downstroke. Just want to kind of get them all generally the same thickness. You can be more intentional with the edges of your letters than I was here so that they're not quite as rounded. Rules of 3. I don't know what it is about that. I'm not a 2 person. Like if I have a fireplace, I don't want 2 candlesticks. I don't want matchy-matchy, like 1 here, 1 there. I want 3. I want clumps of 3 of things. My eye likes that better. Supposedly that's a rule of nature. Nature likes that better. It's just something that I like with my eye. I'm going to take that flat brush again. And I didn't know this was probably a lot in one stinking live tutorial, so please let me know. I know some of you were in my painting group, so some of this may be redundant to what we've did in there as well, but I'd be happy to come back in and break this down more. Just let me know what you would like to see more on. I'm just picking up maybe 2-3 colors on the same brush, and I'm going to come in these middle parts of my letters. I'm going to go to the tip. The tip is touching the paper. I'm pulling towards me, pressing, and lifting back up again. Tip, pulling, pressing, and lifting. It's very quick. Tip, pushing, pulling, and lifting. I am basically creating little leaf shapes. And if you don't feel comfortable with the push, pull, lift, just come in here with your brush and make the same shapes that we did over here, just in smaller scale. So we'll fill that in with our little leaves, little diamond shaped leaves. Because we did the coloring in the back the same color as our roses, let's see, maybe we'll just go with the lighter pink and see which one looks better, and we'll just drop little dots in the middle. If the lighter pink isn't showing up real well, switch back to your darker pink and just drop little tiny circles in between your leaves. May not stand out real well because we're doing same color on same color. But then I'm just going to grab my brush again, drop it in that black, and with the tiniest little bit of pressure, I'm going to just try to drop tiny little black dots in the center of my flower, just one in each flower. If you don't feel comfortable with the brush, use the back end of the brush to do this. Use a toothpick if you want a really tiny little dot, and we're just dropping them in. I'm just going to leave this here for a second, see if my phone will stop being so blurry with the camera so that you can get a good look. Let me know, guys, is this something that you feel comfortable trying yet? Are you still working with your lettering? Do you still need help with that? You have to let me know. I want you all to leave this group when we finish feeling like you've gotten what you needed out of it. So you have to let me know where I need to go back through. I still want to go over like chalk lettering, lettering with markers. I want to do some of the fun things that you can use with your lettering. If they're too difficult, let me know. I'll try to break it down a little bit better so that you can all finish with something fun and pretty like this. Clara, I'm good. I'm glad you're going to try it. I know you have the confidence. When you're done, please post it into the group, guys. Post some of your work into the group. I'm back. Again, thank you for not screaming at me for disappearing for a little bit. This past week was the difficult week of when my husband passed, Father's Day and his birthday, all 3 days together, boom, boom, boom. So it took me down a little, it knocked me down. But you know what we do when we get knocked down, we got to get back up. So I'm back. I want to get back into the swing, and I'm even more excited than ever to get you guys back in and learning. So with that, I know I've been on for quite a while. I'm going to let you go. Please come back into the group and let me know what you need to see again, what you want to see more of, and where you need more help. With that, guys, have a blessed day. Stay safe and have fun.